Hey there, and welcome to Destination I Do's podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Stein, and this episode is all about why hiring a videographer is the best money you will ever spend for your destination wedding. And I am joined by a true legit talent. I've worked with him. He's been on photo shoots with us. Richard Saenz from Royal Films. Thank you so much for joining us. And Richard, tell us a little bit about Royal Films, because I know you've done a lot of weddings, like over 500 weddings or something like that. You've actually filmed.
Yes. Well, first of all, Jen, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to just be talking with you and your audience. I've been doing this for about 11 years. I know 500 weddings seems like, whoa, what a big old number, but we've been doing it for just so long, and we're super excited to just continue on in the business, and this is what we're going to be doing forever. So 11 years.
Well, and you're in business with your wife, right? And you have two little boys, adorable. Caleb, and what's your other son's name?
Ezra.
Ezra.
Caleb,
that's right. That's right.
They're 4 and 5, so they keep me pretty busy.
Yeah, I feel you there.
During those wedding seasons, my wife is holding down the fort and just helping me and being able to do all these projects. So it's a great, especially like being in this business. I love the fact that I have so much flexibility to have that time with my boys. So
yeah. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about, we're going to dive into the reasons you want to hire a videographer and like why it was one of my biggest regrets when I was a destination bride, that I didn't, because literally you should see what we did get and it wasn't pretty. Although I do thank my friends and family for like creating a hodgepodge of video. But I want to know a little bit about how you got into filmmaking to begin with.
Yeah, so I've done this about, like as I mentioned, 11 years. But the way I got into it is, at the time I was looking for a job. I graduated as a business marketing major, and I had a hard time back in 2009, kind of right after the market was like really down. So I was at a place where I'm like, well, I want to get married and start a family in the future. And what I was currently doing at the time, I worked at a local church for about 3 years. I was like, well, if I want to start a family, I'm going to have to really, figure something out. And I was doing video production. And for me, it was kind of, it went hand on hand. Like having that desire of getting married and actually had some friends in the industry as well, the wedding videography. It's like, I can see myself doing it. And I ended up saying, you know what, why not? Let's try it out. And that first year, we ended up doing 33 weddings. Hence, I wasn't doing very much. I wasn't charging very much, but it got me so much great experience. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go for it. And that kind of what launched my business. So that first year went from 30 to like 50, and then it went to 60, and then it was kind of going back down to 50. So we're just kind of climbing that ladder. And so we've been doing it ever since. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, when you look back at your very first video, are you like horrified? Because when I look back at like Destination I Do's first iteration of our website or our magazine, I'm like, I can't believe we survived, honestly.
Right. Well, I have a crazy story about our first wedding, and we had our 10-year of being in business last year. And the venue that our first wedding that we ever shot, I mean, it was for a friend. We didn't even charge her. We're like, hey, I just want to go out there, shoot your wedding, get a feel for it. And it was definitely trial and error. And anyways, I look back at it, I'm like, wow, I definitely come a long way. But that 10-year mark, I ended up filming at the same exact wedding venue on the same exact date.
No way. Yeah. That's crazy.
And then I was able to put side by side the video that I made, and then 10 years later, it was like.
Did you do that on purpose, or did it just work out that way?
It's worked out that way. But you know what? I don't know. In life, I don't think there's any coincidence.
No, there's not. There's definitely not for stuff like that. That's crazy. Yeah.
10 years later, same venues, same dates, and it was incredible to kind of look back to see just how far I've come from, being starting. So yes, when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like my work is night and day different.
Yeah.
So good. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, in your opinion, I have an opinion about this. I have opinions about everything, but in your opinion, what are couples missing out on if they choose not to hire a videographer?
Well, they do say that one of the biggest regrets that brides do have is not hiring a wedding videographer. So
Mhm.
for anyone who is considering like having a wedding VR and budget is definitely an issue. I just say I will highly recommend to definitely hire somebody, even if they're not that much experience. I mean, I know, like I said, when I first started, I did it for free. My friend didn't have a videographer, and she looks back years now, and it's like she is so glad that there was somebody there to capture it.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I hired a photographer because I didn't have a big budget for my wedding, and my photographer, I'm so grateful to have him there. I wasn't very happy with the end results of the photos, but at the end of the day, I was happy that I had something to
Mm,
look back into.
yeah.
Uh, Luckily, I did have a friend who did the video side of things, but I do encourage it, in which I hear that you weren't so happy with your wedding video, but the fact of the matter is you can see all your loved ones
Yeah.
alive and well that are here now. I can imagine 20 to 30, 40 years from now looking back at that wedding video and just really embracing that moment. And especially when your kids are looking back into it, that they get to see it's a snippet in time, and seeing their family, and it's a beautiful thing to have that opportunity to kind of, it's that time, almost like a time machine, where you can kind of see your loved ones all together. So
I could not
so
agree with you more on that. And I think like one of the things that was our biggest regret, quite honestly, was not hiring a videographer. And I think part of it is for exactly the reason you mentioned. It's like a little snapshot into a period of time that's so special and cherished. And for us, like we're 18 years into our marriage and we have lost, I think, 12 people that were at our wedding. Very young, very old, way too young. And having them there, like it's so funny because my husband and I always look at the little bit of video that we did get because we had some friends and family that like kind of stepped in and just like took video with their phones or with whatever, not their phones, because back then phones were like the size of shoes, but like whatever little device they had. And we kind of like put together like a hodgepodge of all of this video. And that little bit that we did get, it's like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's my Uncle Paul who passed away, and there's my grandfather who passed away, and there's all these people. My best friend's brother was there and he passed away. And so it's like, and then also seeing people now, like as adults, like I have family members that at the time they were little kids and now they're off to college, and I have video. It's terrible, grainy, crappy quality, but I have video of them kind of like toddling around, and what I wouldn't have given in hindsight to have a professional person there capturing those precious moments. Like, dumbest decision I ever made, people. So don't do the same thing I did. Part of it was budget related. It was also, to my own defense, videography 20 years ago is not the videography you see today. Like, not even close. So it's not like I had you to choose from back then. Like I had something very different. So
absolutely, yeah, I know how those wedding videos were back then. But it's nice that even people who did get video at those times to look back at that time. But when my parents got married, there wasn't any of that option at all. Like
no,
the early
no.
guys, big old video cameras filming, but hiring those, it was way out of reach for a lot of people to even have that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
uh,
it's cool too that like we have, so when I grew up, my parents didn't video anything. So I have nothing but like little pictures, really bad quality pictures of myself and my brother when we were little. I don't have any video. And the crazy thing is my mom has video from the 50s, and she like, it's like she remembers going to, camping with aunts and all. It's like there's all this, there's something, like you said, when you're looking at a picture, that's worth 1,000 words. Video is worth, it's like a novel, you know? It's like, it's, you see things, personality traits or mannerisms that like you see in one person in the family, you see somewhere, oh, well, that goes back to grandpa, whoever, you know what I mean? Like there's something intangible about video that, and especially for a wedding or a milestone event, I think is just so important to capture.
Absolutely. It brings you back to that moment in time, and in such a special way to bring back those emotions that you felt those at that time. You know, when you're saying your vows and you're hearing just how you felt, and you know, when you see those tears in that, it just really, really does bring you back.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, this is one question I get a lot from people that are like skeptical about hiring a videographer. They're like, well, why am I going to put it in my budget? Because they're like, what do I do with my video once like the wedding day is over? So what do you say to those people?
I mean, when we deliver our wedding videos, what's great nowadays, and I know that everything is changing so fast with technology, we have everything living on the cloud now. Like you have access. We use a platform called MediaZilla where we can upload the video and you just simply download an app on your phone. And you don't even have to download an app. You can download it on your TV, on your computer, and you can have instant access to your wedding video at any time. And the same quality that you first saw it, it's going to be the same 10 to 20 to 30 years. So it's going to be there for life. And so I love it that, you know, if there's like a special occasion where you have your friends and family all together, you can go back and, you know, say, hey, let's watch the video that we did. And it's easy as pressing a quick button and seeing it either on your TV, on your computer, anywhere. So it's great that nowadays we have a place that we can kind of always go back and see everything and be able to share those special moments with everyone. So finding those times where you do all get together and being able to share that. I'm sure when your kids are like about to get married, they're going to be thinking, oh, I wonder what my mom, you know, and my dad wedding was like. And so you're able to instantly take them back into that moment in time.
Definitely. And I think there's things that you can do just as a couple. Even though we have like this silly little hodgepodge of video, my husband and I, every anniversary, we watch it together. And it's funny because it's like we laugh at the ridiculous toasts, and we got married on the coast, and there was a train that literally interrupted, like it was like chewing through our marriage vows, and we laugh about it every time. It's like, I didn't realize it was that obnoxious. Like at the time we were just kind of like, oh, this is kind of funny. But like after the fact, watching the family friend video version, it's like, oh my gosh, that train was like hooting and hollering through all of our wedding vows, and it was pretty obnoxious. So as far as coverage, help me understand, because a lot of times we in the media see, like if we have a real wedding that gets submitted to us to be published, and we get like a highlight video where it's maybe a minute and it's just high level, beautiful, you know, sometimes slow-mo close-ups of the gown, the rings, like holding hands, that kind of thing. But it's not the full, you know, 8 hours or whatever of the actual event, or even like the auxiliary events, like the welcome dinner and all those things. So when you deliver to your clients the final product, are you only giving them like the highlights, or are you giving them all of the raw coverage that you captured?
Yeah. The way I like to handle things, I like to be flexible with my clients because everybody's different. I do get the clients that want a small video, and I do have the clients that want to see everything. And you're just like, it is so much. I'm like, well, you know what? And I definitely love offering the raw footage to the clients for those who do want to see more of those longer moments in real time and hearing everything. So part of how I deliver my products is just being able to give them a polished video of the entire day as a whole. And whether it's a 3 to 4 minute film or a 5 to 7, 8 to 9. So we do offer different lengths in that. And so that's something great to ask the videographer that you might be considering and having. It's like, hey, do you know if you have a videographer? Well, do you have a video depending on the length that you want it? Like if you want an 8 minute film, like do you offer that? Some videographers, they just want to do like a short 3 to 4 minute. And so it's definitely important to ask those questions to know that you know exactly what you're getting. But for the most part, I would say in general, most videographers will be willing to do like a lot more. It's just being able to ask those questions. But the way I structured everything that I do, it is pretty flexible depending on the needs of each individual. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're right. I think there's some people that just want the pretty, right? They just want, 1 to 2 minutes of just kind of capturing their event in a very artistic way. I mean, that's why you're a filmmaker, and that's what they're interested in. And then there's other people who are super sentimental and they want it all. I would probably be on the second end of things, but also done in an artistic way. I want every bit of it, right? So when it comes to, like you just said, talk to your filmmaker about what exactly it is that you're looking for. But in that, as you're trying to pick whoever it is as a couple who's going to record your event, what are 3 things every couple should look for in their videographer? Questions they should ask, or red flags they should be aware of? Like anything you can like share some insight on there.
No, that's a fantastic question, because you definitely want to make sure that on your wedding day, you know exactly who you're getting and what you're getting. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your expectations are communicated, and you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting. So the first thing I would look into is I would read past reviews. I would want to make sure that this videographer is pretty consistent in delivering great service. And if you're looking for something in particular in terms of style, like you want to look at their work. That's the second thing. I would go and look at their most recent work. Don't look at what they did 2 to 3 years ago. Look at what they're doing right now, because that's a great indicator of what you're going to be receiving. And a third thing is I would definitely want to make sure, like, I know who's going to show up on my wedding day. I don't want to be sent somebody, that they probably found on Facebook asking, hey, I need a lead shooter because another job came up. And that's something that you just never know. And you want to make sure you read that over your contract, that you are going to get this person to film your wedding. And you don't want it to be the case where they end up getting a job in Europe, and they're paying a lot more. So they're going to send you somebody else. And if you get in a situation where if this other person is filming your wedding day, you're not going to get the same exact product. You're going to get a completely different product. And I guarantee it, because I know from my experience, and I have associate shooters that have shot with me on wedding days, and I know their footage is a lot different. And when I deliver my videos, clients are seeing 90% of my footage, because I know that 10% is not really echoing my work, but it's coverage. It's getting the moments of every day, just enjoying that. So those are I would say the 4 important things. And actually the final one, I would say the 5th is really, making sure you understand what your needs are, and knowing that you communicate those needs, so that at the end of the day, your videographer knows what your expectations are. And if there are any concerns, he's hopefully going to address those concerns to make sure that they're able to deliver, and you're just going to have a overall good experience. A great cinematographer is somebody who can just go in there, shoot the wedding, and not feel like you have to manage and tell them, hey, if you get, hopefully you're not being asked throughout the wedding day, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? No, they should already know that they can just do the job without an ounce of like feeling like they need to be constantly talking back and forth with the client on the wedding day. Like, do you want this? Do you want that? Like, no, like you just do your job. Just make sure that you get all the shots that you need. So overall, those are the 5 things.
Okay. That's really, really helpful. Do you ever use, because I know for us, when we do photo shoots for DestinationIdo.com and our clients and whatnot, that we have a shot list that we put together to make sure that all of the things that we really want to capture is captured. Do you do the same thing with your clients? And do you recommend that people who maybe aren't going to work with you, but they're going to work with someone else, that they have that shot list?
Yeah.
Or is that
I do.
micromanaging? I don't know.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. I think shot lists are definitely very appropriate for photographers,
Okay.
especially when you're looking at certain combinations. Like I want a shot just me and my grandma, and that's the shot that I want. And then I want a combination shot of, grandma and then just other extended family members. And so just making sure that you get the shots that you want. But in general, a lot of weddings have kind of the same pace, like the same moments that are happening. So a great cinematographer knows how to anticipate moments that are going to be happening. So
Yeah.
if I'm doing a bride preps, there could be a gift exchange. And if I haven't been told that there was a gift exchange, I'm going to try to figure out, asking a bridesmaid, hey, if there's anything happening, are they exchanging gifts? Making sure that I know that I can pre-anticipate so I don't miss those important moments. So from an experienced videographer, I definitely don't ask my clients specifically like, hey, can you give me a shot list? But because I do know how to prepare myself. However, if there are things that we don't know, like let's say I'm doing a ring shot or details and getting those fun creative moments while maybe the bride is doing a gift exchange with the mother, and I had no idea. And so it is important to know like things that aren't very common or usual, or is to prepare. Typically, when I receive a wedding timeline, I know all the important events, but it's just those in between moments that if there's something that I would want to know. So I do encourage them to tell me, hey, there are some shots that I would love for you to get that aren't scheduled or aren't planned on the day. So
Yeah.
so it's kind of like yes and no. So yeah, and yes, in a sense of tell me something that maybe it's not on the schedule. No, in the sense that you don't need to tell me, I do want ring shots. I do want those family shots. I do want the first kiss, and I do want
Yeah.
the cake cut. Yeah, I'm going to get those. Don't worry.
Clearly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, and I think too, working with a wedding planner, this is again why you hire a wedding planner. I think every episode at this point, I have told our listeners, hire a wedding planner, please, because they also are going to be handing over a timeline. Like a couple who's never been married before and don't hire a wedding planner aren't going to know to necessarily hand over a detailed timeline the way a wedding planner would, right? And there's also things that the wedding planner is going to have an inside scoop on that she or he can like point out to you, right? So, I do think again, working with a wedding planner is only going to help you. I'm
I
a
love that.
broken record at this point, Richard. If I haven't done my job for the wedding planning industry, I don't know what I will.
No, they need to hear it. Like I love wedding planners. Like it just makes the day so easy
I
and
know.
so free. And you just can trust and just really enjoy the day. That's something that I like to let my clients know is like, hey, I want to make sure that you're enjoying your wedding day and not stressing about it. You've hired the professionals. Let us do our job, and you just enjoy and just have the best time ever. So I never want to take away from that in a sense. So when I'm working with clients, I want to get the shots, get them to the party, as quick as possible.
I love that. Get the shots, get them to the party.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we got all sorts of good, juicy details to share with you. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for the perfect vendors to make your wedding dreams come true? Well, luckily, Destination I Do has our very own vendor directory. From our homepage, simply click Find a Vendor, scroll down and choose your filters, and learn more about the vendor. You can view their recent work, click on their website, or even find their contact information at the bottom. We personally vet all of our vendors, so you can stop scrolling and just go to destinationIdo.com/find-a-vendor.
And we're back with Richard Saenz from Royal Films, and he is dishing on all reasons you want to hire a videographer, cinematographer, filmmaker, whatever you want to call them for your destination wedding. So my next question is, so some couples are worried that with all the vendors, you know, you've got the photographer for sure, but sometimes is it, or maybe this happens, maybe it doesn't, where the videographer kind of is intrusive as far as like, you know, the event and their vows and the celebration. Like, is there a lot of setup, and, you know, you've got boom mics and all this different equipment that could feel intrusive to the celebration. So is that true? And if it is, like, how do you kind of work around that?
Absolutely. It is true that you do get a spectrum of videographers.
Okay.
On one end, you do get the guy who is like 2 feet in front of you while you're giving your vows. And on the other end, there's the guy, you know, just maybe in the back, not moving in one position and just getting whatever he can get in the back, but not really moving around. So what is important is when you do meet with a videographer is really asking them, what is your approach on the wedding day? Like, how is it that you conduct, you know, you film the process? And as you're listening, make sure that he is meeting your desires. You know, I mean, maybe those clients do want you to be 2 feet in front of you because they want the most creative production film as possible. And other couples don't want that. So it really depends on the individual. But I would say in general, where I like to stay kind of like right in the middle, in the sense that, you know, when I'm filming our ceremonies, I do film with zoom lenses. So you'll never feel like I'm feet away. Okay. One of the biggest compliments I do get when I do film weddings is clients tell me, Richard, I feel like you weren't even there and you captured this amazing wedding video. I'm like, yes, I did my job, because I want to make sure that the clients are more focused on the experience than focusing on the production of what I'm doing creatively and behind the scenes, or what, you know, I want them just to have a great time.
Yeah.
And that's my approach during the ceremonies, is just kind of in getting those fun creative shots off to the side, kind of getting, you know, those reactions, zooming in when the groom has that tear in his eye. I want to make sure I get a nice close up of that. But I'm definitely working the room in the back in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's invasive. So that's what I mean about being kind of in the middle. Like, I do want to get those shots, and I do want to create a nice product for the client, because I do understand the shots that are really going to emotionally bring them back to that day. Because when you see the reactions of people when you're saying your vows, you don't see that because you're so focused on your fiance as you're giving your vows to each other.
Yeah.
It's so sweet to see, you know, your family members and your dad. You've probably never seen the tear in his eye, tearing up. You're like, oh my God, I've never seen him cry before. Where's the shot of that? So it's just like being able to capture those moments and not be the videographer that's timid and just getting that one shot in the back. Like, I want to definitely make sure. So make sure to answer the question, just make sure that you're asking the questions to make that, you know, that the cinematographer is going to document the wedding the way you would like for this videographer to capture your wedding day.
So, quick little story about the super intrusive. It wasn't actually a filmmaker, it was the photographer. And so one of my very best friends, it was early in my wedding career, but she got engaged and she asked me for recommendations for photo and video. And so I gave her a whole pile of people that I knew would do an amazing job. And for whatever reason, she didn't listen. And she went with somebody who had a better price. And no exaggeration, on her wedding day, it was at this beautiful lakeside destination, and it was hot, but it was beautiful, like not a cloud in the sky. And as the minister was blessing the marriage, she put her finger up and a dragonfly landed on her finger. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, how cool is that? That there's like a dragonfly, because I guess it means like good luck or there's something. And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at the dragonfly. So you just like hear this like murmuring through like the crowd. And I'm not lying, because I was bridesmaid and I had like up close and personal view of this entire situation. Her photographer, who was like the size of the Hulk, like he was a big dude, comes like not just running delicately down the aisle. He was like tromping, and it was on a dock, so it was like hollow wood. So it was just like bam, 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 bam. And he literally, because he's trying to capture the dragonfly, and he lunges to get as close as he can as he's making a complete spectacle of himself. And no lie, like this man's pants were so tight. And when he did the lunge, they literally shredded. Like,
oh, okay.
All the way. Like we saw his butt, we saw everything. It was such like, and it ruined.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny to laugh at now, you know,
Right.
like 20 years later or whatever. But at the time, it was like, are you kidding me? Like the photographer is supposed to be kind of like a fly on the wall. Like there was 1,000 different ways to have gotten that shot without making a complete scene, and splitting your pants. Like it was, I felt so embarrassed for this person who will remain, I think, he's actually out of business now. So whatever. But yeah, it was so. To Richard's point, make sure the person you're working with is kind of somewhere in between, because you don't want someone who's so intrusive that it's like taking away from the moments of the event. But you also don't want someone who's going to miss the moments of like dad's tear, or, you know, your fiance like completely becoming a puddle the second they see you walk down the aisle. Like those are things you don't want to miss. So yeah, I love that. Now I want to talk about budget. This is always something that people love to hate to talk about, but I kind of want to know, like, in your opinion, because you've been doing this 11 years now, and obviously you believe in what you do. I believe in what you do because I've seen your work and you're amazing. It's like chef's kiss. When someone says like, I don't have the budget for film, what do you say to them? Like, do you say like cut somewhere else? Do you say just make room for it? Like, and if you say cut, where would you say to cut from to make room?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely advocate to have a videographer. Now, I would definitely do your best to see how much is, because really the money goes into the things that you most value, right?
Yeah.
And I think as a cinematographer, when I'm meeting with my clients, I have to sell them the value of cinematography, or just having a wedding video that, you know, weddings are not cheap. I mean, by far reach that. Yeah, weddings can cost so much money, but really consider that you're going to be left with just your photos and just your video, because, you know, the food's going to be eaten, the flowers are going to die. The wedding dress is going to be worn once. So there's so many aspects of the wedding that, you know, all this money goes into these things that you can easily, like, if you didn't have photos or video look back into, you can forget so much. Yeah. And it's such a special day that I definitely want to make sure that I convey that message to the clients, that this is something that is important, that you should look into evaluating. And there I would go into, you know, I would definitely consider maybe there's some areas that you can potentially cut off on. Maybe the flowers are, you know, 10,000, maybe 1,000 here, maybe a little bit off certain areas, like maybe wedding invitations. They don't have to be so, you know, big, so elaborate. And I've seen so many different type of invitations. I know that you can spend an infinite amount of money.
I just think of that scene in Bridesmaids where she opens the invitation and the butterfly comes out. Like, that's like literally what I'm picturing as you're talking about that. It's right? My movie of all time. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Butterfly, you could save so much money. And so that's something where it just takes some time. Talk to your wedding planner. Say, you know what, wedding videography is important. And what are some areas you can definitely help me shave off a little here and there? Because if you can make a room for it, and just so you know, like, I'll even throw a number out there that is typical average. Right now, about $2,500 is like an average cinematographer, I would say, in general across the board. Right. I looked at some, not statistics, and if you can make at least that, and I'm a little away from that average because I know that the work that I bring is a definitely above average. So you know the people that you're hiring, like how much do you value the videography in itself, and being able to know what areas, and definitely, like I said, again, talk to your wedding planner, see if there are definitely some areas that you could shave off a little here and there so you can have a wedding videographer. And don't let budget, there's a videographer for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did my first wedding for free. I could never imagine, like when I first started, that I'm going to be charging what I'm charging now.
Yeah.
And looking back and knowing that my first wedding was free. I mean, I get envious when people like, I did my first wedding at 1,500. I'm like, yeah, I did mine for free. Like there
Got to start somewhere, right?
You got to start somewhere, right? But the couple was great. They were good friends. They ended up giving me some gift cards, and I was like, I was happy with anything. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll take it. But it's so just know that it's not impossible. You can definitely find somebody. It's just really taking the time and effort to get to that place where you are happy with the person that you hired, or the person that you have at your wedding video to do your wedding video. Yeah.
I think the fact that you're talking about, instead of just like cutting an entire thing out, you're saying like just shave off here and there. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb, because there's certain ways, like when I got married and, engaged and went through the planning process, we ended up with some really beautiful stationery. We did a custom stationer, but when we first started looking at the stationery, we went like to the nicest of the nice, right? We were literally like, oh, this is what we want. And you wouldn't even, minus the butterfly, it was pretty close to the bridesmaids example. And we quickly realized, whoa. Okay, if we're doing that, then we're not going to have the finances for this. And for us, guest experience and food was huge, right? Like huge. Dress was like, if I could go back and change one thing, I probably would have chosen a different dress for multiple reasons. Again, destination weddings were kind of like not starting up then, but they weren't like mainstream like they are now. So there weren't a whole lot of options. So that was partly why I got painted into a corner. But I feel like now there is like even people who have really elaborate budgets, they're still on a budget, and they still have to kind of look at things, and there's some give and take. Maybe you don't have the private Prosecco van, or maybe, you, like you said, you shave off, instead of having floral arrangements on, all the carving station, F&B, maybe you just do it for the tables or whatever. I think kind of approaching it from that standpoint to make room for it makes the most sense. So my next question is, and I feel like I know what your answer is going to be, and I probably have the same answer. And that is, there's so many couples that are like, oh, I have a cousin who is really great with a video camera, or I have, so-and-so is willing to do it for a really reduced cost or completely free. And it's a friend or a family member who is not a professional. Like, this is not their vocation. This is something they do because they love it or whatever. What do you say to those people? Like, is there danger there? I know there is. I feel like I know your answer.
Yeah, I will say that if you are in a predicament that you can shave off at certain areas, you can't make that extra effort. Like, especially if it's a family member, you want them to enjoy the wedding day.
Yes.
And not feel like they have a weighted responsibility of showing up on the day and documenting it. But I wouldn't be 100% against it. I'm like maybe 2 or 3% saying like, you know what, if that's all you can do and your cousin is willing to like do it and he wants to do it, then go for it, because you'll have something, right? But I would lean more towards like just hiring somebody, even if that individual has only done it for a few years, or maybe a year, or not even that, just starting off into the business, and just really having that expectation that you're just getting somebody to document the wedding or stuff, and not feel like this individual is going to create, some, like, don't look at my work and expect, you're cousin or somebody first starting off in the business delivering that. So just having that right expectation. But yes, I would say hire somebody.
Yeah.
And I would go that route. I do want to plug in this real quick though, and I think it's very important that when I filmed weddings, I know that everybody has an iPhone or a smartphone with an amazing camera, and they feel like they can be the videographers or the photographers on the wedding day. But if you're hiring professionals, I definitely advocate having an unplugged ceremony and making sure that everybody knows to put their phone away and just really be in the moment, because you're going to have the best photo and best video. The last thing you want is a row of iPhones and Androids down the aisle as you're walking down. Or I've actually gotten in one situation where I filmed a wedding in Calamigos a couple years ago, and it was not an unplugged ceremony because almost like half the audience had their phone out. And I kid you not, there was that row of iPhones and Androids filming her walk down the aisle. I had to run up and tell one of the guests, you're actually in the middle of the aisle. Like you can see their back butt and everything. And I had to go into like, sir, you got to move to the side because we're trying to get our shot. And here he is with his phone. And so, sometimes you just have to remind, we just live in an age where you just have to take that extra step. And I just throw that in there because you had mentioned, hey, what about if we hire an uncle or a cousin to do it? Yeah. I'm like, I know even on the wedding days, people want to be the videographer and photographer and just kind of get those nice. So I'm not against getting photos. It's just certain moments, like especially as a ceremony, let's be there present and enjoy that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like what you're talking about makes so much sense. When we get photos from people's ceremonies that are not unplugged, it ruins the shot. It like when you're trying to get like a wide angle of the entire perspective for the couple, of their guests sitting there quietly with this beautiful destination in the background, and you have 40 people with their iPhones raised up, you can't Photoshop that out because then people's hands are still up, right? Like there's no way to make that go away. And so I am so on board. And I love also that you mentioned that it's like the guests should want to enjoy, not that they should want to, but you should want them to enjoy your event. And, some people have social anxiety. And so for them, kind of hiding behind a camera is a great way to not have to interact with people. Like I have lots of family members that are like that. They're like, please give me that job so I don't have to have a conversation with another person. And maybe they're really talented and that makes sense. And I think, addressing every situation differently and just recognizing, maybe you do have a cousin who's super artistic and they really don't care to mingle at cocktail hour, and they'd much rather capture every scene. Those situations do happen. But I think the rule of thumb by and large is if you want professional product, hire a professional. So I will leave it at that. Next question really quick, because I know we are running out of time, is when you are filming a destination wedding, how do you approach it differently, or do you approach it differently than a hometown wedding?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. I feel like there's a lot of preparation in the pre-production. I just got back from Italy with my wife. We did a wedding in Ravello, so the Amalfi Coast. It was such a beautiful, beautiful event. But what we did to approach that particular wedding is we did sit down with our client and we did ask them questions, because it's definitely different, because when you're having a destination wedding, you're wanting to create an experience for all your guests. They're coming from, just the everyday life to like, wow, this amazing, beautiful scenery, that because we're not used to it. And, people from Europe, when they come here, they have that same feeling. So it's just like, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what are those things that you're going to do. So what activities, do you want? So what we did, we ended up filming the rehearsal dinner, and they had, it was like a 3-day kind of, they had 3 events leading up to the wedding day. So we were able to document some of those moments. But if we didn't know, we probably wouldn't have got that. Luckily, what I love about this couple is they wanted to do more photo and video after the wedding day. So we were able to go out and get all these additional shots that we couldn't on the wedding day, because at the end of the day, like I had talked to my clients and told them, like, I want you guys to have fun. Like, don't feel like this is going to be a big production. But they're like, well, Richard, we really love these shots that you got in these videos. Like, yeah, like, you know, if I get them, great. If I don't, it's okay. But we really want them. Like, all right, let's do another session. And so they went in it with the idea that we were going to do a lot, getting more of those shots. And that couldn't have happened if I didn't kind of prepare myself for understanding what their expectations were. Mm-hmm. So really, communication was very important for me to have with them, kind of going into these destination weddings, making sure I document everything as a whole and know that I'm filming it in such a way that covers the whole experience as a whole. I love destination weddings. I get excited when I get to go out there and do weddings, and which is why we kind of pivot in the last few years to do more of those. So yeah, we're hoping for more in the future.
Well, I mean, I've traveled with you to do destination photo shoots, right? So we've done, let's see, we did one in Mexico last year and another in Mexico this year. The one last year was like, holy production, Batman. Like, I mean, how many looks did we do? We did 3 different resorts. It was South Asian. It was like, it was a lot, and it was hot. Oh my goodness. It was so warm. But having traveled with you and seeing like what you were able to capture, like, you're a ninja. Like, it's just insane. I actually, like, listener, I picked up Richard's like bag, like his equipment bag, to like move it or do something. It was like a dead body. Like, I couldn't even move it. It was so heavy. Like, but even though you had all that equipment, like, you were like this stealth, like getting all the shots, but like not intrusive, not like in your face. You worked seamlessly with the photographer to be like, okay, your turn, now my turn, now your turn, now my turn. And it went like boom, boom, boom. It was so amazing, like amazing. And then like the drone footage that you can capture, like I've worked with you on a destination event and a very, very like intense one. And then the last one we just did had like 3 looks in one day, and we're like shooting in like the hottest environment. And it was like, I was blown away at not only the end result of the videos that you captured, but like working with you and seeing you in action. I was like, there is no doubt that if I was like, you know, getting married right now, you'd be the number 1 person I would hire, you know? So anyway, I was just really cool to see you doing your thing.
That means a lot. Thank you so much. And for
yeah, of course.
Really,
I only speak truth. I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love what I do, and to get the opportunity to work with amazing people as yourself, and the opportunities that are given to me, I'm just beyond thankful for just having me. And when I can, you know, do what I do best, and knowing that I'm doing it with the best in the industry. I mean, you have quite an amazing platform, so I'm just so grateful to ever partner with you. So hopefully there's more to come in the future that we can work
together. Heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You feel the love, listener? I hope you do, because it's here. Definitely. Well, I want to also quickly, before you go, I know you're kind of doing a little business transition, like as far as number of weddings. You were going from 50, now you're going to?
Yes. So we're hoping to go from 20 to 25 next year. My 2 boys aren't getting any younger. They're just getting older. They're doing, I mean, when I had them for this past week, my wife went on a trip. I had them for a full week. So I really had an opportunity to just spend a lot of amazing time with them, but they're getting into sports. Like they did their soccer event, and I'm like, I can already see in the future. They're 4 and 5. And, you know, thinking I want to be able to be there, and I can't do that doing 50 weddings a year. As much as I love to serve as many clients as possible, it's not just realistic for me, especially as I'm as my family is just getting into a new stage of life. And so that's kind of been the reason why I'm kind of transitioning from doing a volume to more of that luxury wedding. So unfortunately, I do have to charge more, and I won't be working with as many clients because I really do love this work. And but I also do love my family more than my work. So I definitely have to adjust my priorities in that sense. Yeah.
Listen up, folks. A real family man. I love it. Good for you. That's amazing. And I really hope that you just get quality events and, just the right numbers so you can have that life, work-life balance. But thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your time, and just yourself with us. I really appreciate it, Richard.
I'm grateful for you, Jen. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm just blessed to know you and to be friends with you, honestly.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what the future holds for us and working together.
Same, Richard. If you guys have any questions or want to follow Richard and Royal Films, their social media is at Royal Films, and then their website is royalfilms.net. Like and follow us, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to all the things. We have an email newsletter, and our website's got plenty of great information on it. DestinationIdo.com is our website. And on social media, we are at Destination I Do. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.